Hi and welcome to the course. I'm really excited to have you here. In the next few hours, you're going to gain the tools, tips, and real examples you need to master accounting interviews in Dubai. Whether you're applying for junior or senior roles, this course will guide you step by step. Let's dive right in. Why special preparation for Dubai? Dubai is one of the most dynamic and competitive job markets in the world. Here, employers don't just look for strong accounting knowledge. They expect the professionals to have a solid understanding of IFRS standards, practical VAT filing experience, and the ability to work in a multicultural environment. You're not just being hired for what you know, but for how well you adapt, communicate, and solve problems. And that's exactly what we'll focus on in this course. What recruiters look for recruiters in Dubai are looking for much more than someone who can simply crunch numbers. They want you to show that you understand and apply accounting standards, that you can confidently handle VAT compliance, and that you can communicate effectively with your team and the clients. Problem-solving ability, attention to detail, and adaptability are key traits that can really set you apart. Common accounting interview topics. Let's talk about what topics usually come up in accounting interviews here. You will almost always be asked about financial statements and IFRS applications. VAT filing in the UAE is another major focus. Other areas include journal entries, month-end closing, managing a cash flow, controlling costs, budgeting, and working with accounting software like SAP, Oracle, or QuickBooks. In this course, we'll prepare you for each of these areas so you feel ready and confident. Mistakes to avoid. Many candidates make simple but costly mistakes. Some memorize textbook answers without really understanding the concepts, and interviewers can spot that instantly. Others ignore VAT regulations that are specific to the UAE, or they focus too much on technical skills and forget to show their softer skills like teamwork, communication, and adaptability. This course will help you avoid all of these mistakes. Mistakes to avoid. Many candidates make simple but costly mistakes. Some memorize textbook answers without really understanding the concepts, and interviewers can spot that instantly. Others ignore VAT regulations that are specific to the UAE, or they focus too much on technical skills and forget to show their softer skills like teamwork, communication, and adaptability. This course will help you avoid all of these mistakes. Let's get started. Alright, it's time to jump in. In the next module, we'll first explore how accounting interviews are usually structured in Dubai, so you'll know exactly what to expect. We'll also start practicing answer together, so you'll feel prepared and confident for your next big interview. Let's go. How accounting interviews work in Dubai. Accounting interviews in Dubai usually happen over 2 or 3 rounds. The first round is often conducted by HR to assess your communication skills and general background. Later rounds involve finance managers who test your technical accounting knowledge. Both technical strengths and soft skills are equally important to succeed. Interview rounds. Overview. Here's a typical breakdown. The first round is an HR screening. If you pass that, you move to a technical interview with a finance manager or chief accountant. Some companies might have a third round with senior management to discuss your salary expectations and fit within the organization. Common screening questions. Round 1. During the HR screening, be ready to answer questions like, tell us about yourself, why did you choose Dubai, or what accounting software are you familiar with? You might also be asked about how you keep yourself updated with the changes in IFRS. or VAT regulations. The goal here is to show your communication skills, motivation, and a professional attitude. Common technical questions. Round 2. In the technical round, questions get more detailed. You might be asked to explain IFRS 15 about revenue recognition, or to walk them through how you prepare and file VAT returns in the UAE. Other examples include preparing a bank reconciliation or explaining the accounting treatment for doubtful debts. It's important not just to know the answer, but to explain your thinking clearly. What interviewers evaluate. Remember, interviewers are evaluating more than your technical ability. They wanted to see how you think through problems, how clearly you explain accounting concepts, and how well you fit into their team culture. Confidence, clarity, and professionalism make a strong impression. Real interview. Tip: be ready for case studies. In many Dubai accounting interviews, candidates are given real-world case studies. You might be asked to analyze a trial balance, prepare some adjusting entries, or correct mistakes in VAT returns. Practicing case studies beforehand can really boost your confidence and performance. Key to success. The key to success is simple. Understand the concepts deeply, not just to memorize them. Practice explaining your answers simply and logically. And finally, show your enthusiasm, willingness to learn, and adaptability. That's what really sets top candidates apart. Why IFRS matters in Dubai. In Dubai, IFRS is the official accounting framework not just for big corporations, but also for medium-sized companies and SMEs. That's why employers expect you to have a working knowledge of key IFRS standards. But don't worry, they don't expect you to quote complex paragraphs. They want you to understand and apply the concepts. Most common IFRS topics in interviews. Let's focus on the IFRS standards that come up the most. You'll often hear questions about IFRS 15, which deals with revenue recognition, IFRS 16, related to leases, and IFRS 9 for financial instruments. Also, basics from IAS 2 for inventories, IAS 16 for fixed assets, and IAS 37 for provisions and contingencies. Don't try to memorize every detail. Focus on understanding the core idea behind each standard. For interviewer, IFRS 15, Revenue Recognition, Simple View. IFRS 15 introduced the 5-step model for recognizing revenue. The key is to identify the contract and spot the separate performance obligations, determine the transaction price allocated to obligations, and recognize revenue when the performance obligation is satisfied, meaning when control passes to the customer. How deeply should you know IFRS? You don't need to recite the standards line by line. What matters is that you can explain them simply. If you can describe IFRS 15 to a non-accountant in plain language, you're at the right level. Interviewers love candidates who can turn complex ideas into clear communication. Real case example, IFRS 15. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine a construction company signs a 12-month contract worth 1 million dirhams. They shouldn't recognize the full revenue on day one. Instead, they recognize revenue progressively as the construction work is completed over time. This is how IFRS 15 works, focusing on the transfer of a control. Interview. Tip: relate IFRS to UAE scenarios. When giving examples in interviews, connect IFRS to industries common in Dubai like real estate, retail, construction, or hospitality. If you can show real-world understanding like that, you'll stand out and leave a lasting impression. Importance of VAT knowledge for accountants. VAT compliance is extremely important for businesses operating in Dubai and across the UAE. Mistakes in VAT filing can lead to big financial penalties. That's why companies look for accountants who are confident and accurate in managing VAT processes. VAT in UAE. Quick facts. Let's quickly review some basics. The standard VAT rate in the UAE is 5%. However, some sectors like healthcare, education, and exports are either zero rated or exempt. Most businesses must file VAT returns every quarter, and some larger companies must file monthly. Key documents for VAT filing. For VAT filing, you must manage four types of documents carefully: sales invoices or tax invoices issued to customers, purchase invoices you receive from suppliers, any credit or debit notes issued for returns or adjustments, and of course, the VAT return forms that you submit through the Federal Tax Authority's online portal. Steps in VAT filing. The VAT filing process follows a few clear steps. First, gather all your sales and purchase data. Second, calculate your output VAT. That's the VAT you collected from customers, and your input VAT, the VAT you pay to suppliers. Third, complete the VAT return form 201 through the FTA portal. Finally, ensure you pay any VAT due before the deadline to avoid fines. Common VAT filing mistakes. Common mistakes to watch out for include missing proper tax invoices, incorrectly claiming input VAT, or submitting returns after the due date. Another big error is not reconciling your VAT returns with your accounting records. Always double check everything before filing. Real case VAT error example. Here's a real case that shows how easily mistakes happen. A retail company tried to claim input VAT on entertainment expenses for their staff. But under UAE VAT law, such expenses are non-recoverable. The FTA disallowed the claim and imposed a penalty. Always check the VAT recoverability rules carefully before filing. Interview. Tip. Show VAT understanding. In your interview, be prepared to talk about VAT. Be ready to explain the difference between output VAT and input VAT clearly. If you have experience with VAT audits, tax clarifications, or FTA correspondence, highlight that. And finally, emphasize your attention to detail. It's critical when dealing with VAT. Why prepare for common questions? Most accounting interviews, especially in Dubai, follow a familiar pattern. You'll often face a mix of technical questions about accounting knowledge and behavioral questions about how you work. Preparing smart, confident answers can really set you apart from other candidates. Common technical questions. Here are some of the most common technical questions you should expect. What are the main financial statements? How do you account for accrued expenses? What's the difference between capital and revenue expenditure? Sample answer: financial statements. When asked about financial statements, you can respond like this. The income statement reports a company's profit or loss over a period. The balance sheet shows the financial position at a point in time, assets, liabilities, and equity. The cash flow statement shows how cash moves in and out of the business. Finally, the statement of changes in equity explains movements in the owner's equity account. Simple, organized answers make a strong impression. Common behavioral questions. You will also get behavioral questions. These test how you act in real work situations. Common ones include: tell us about a time you made a mistake. How do you manage tight deadlines? Describe working with a difficult team member. They wanted to see how you solve the problems, not just hear about technical skills. Answering behavioral questions. STAR technique. Use the STAR technique to answer behavioral questions. S. Situation, briefly set the scene. T. Task, describe what needed to be done. A. Action, explain exactly what you did. R. Result, share what happened in the end. Using the star keeps your answers structured and impactful. Dubai specific interview tips. Since you're interviewing in Dubai, be ready to show basic understanding of UAE VAT laws, familiarity with IFRS application in real scenarios, ability to work with multicultural teams, strong focus on regulatory and compliance procedures. These points are especially valued by employers here. Real example, handling a VAT issue. Here's an example you can share if asked about solving a problem. You discovered a VAT miscalculation during an internal audit. You corrected the error, filed the clarification request with the FTA, and successfully avoided penalties. Your attention to detail and the proactive attitude were praised by your manager. Stories like this make a powerful impact during the interviews.